Reprocide, how Israel's genocide in Gaza targets the present and the future of Palestinian life. Please welcome Hala Shoman.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. Again, it's very difficult to speak after Ahmed and after Siham's testimonies recorded from people who have faced sexual and other types of physical torture. But here we are. My name is Hala Shoman. I'm a Palestinian researcher, dentist, a PhD scholar from Gaza. I'm here today in my capacity as an expert in gendered and reproductive violence, specifically within the genocide. In the 10 minutes I have, I'll address why what's unfolding in Gaza right now is not only a genocide, but it also extends to what's termed a reprocide or reproductive genocide. And it's about the systematic targeting of reproductive health and capacities in a community and in Gaza, in order to eliminate their present, but also their future. To eliminate the mothers, the infants, fathers, sons' capacity to conceive, carry, birth, feed, heal, and also raise the next generation. The jury should be aware what reprocide means. In December 2023, an Israeli missile hit Gaza's largest fertility clinic center, al-Basma IVF Center in Gaza. The single strike have destroyed more than 4,000 embryos and over than 1,000 unfertilized eggs and sperms. Dr. Baha al-Ghalayini, the obstetrician who established the clinic, have summed up the impact of this attack by saying, quotations, 5,000 lives in one chill. The strike was an act of reprocide, killing potential lives, killing the possibility of a future of those families becoming families and having children, and also damaging the infrastructure that might enable those families and other families in the future to have children. In the context of Israeli ongoing genocide in Gaza, reprocide serves as a tactic. In the Genocide Convention, there is some mention of the prevention of birth, like imposing measures intended to prevent birth within particular national, ethnic, or religious group and modality, and this is part of the genocide. However, reprocide extends that to a temporal dimension affecting the present and the future, but also it's extending it to affecting not only prevention of birth, but affecting the family continuity, annihilation of whole families, thousands of extended families in Gaza, preventing of lineages, and affecting the psyche and ability of reproduction. Reprocide or reproductive genocide includes direct attacks on family, on health, killing families, killing parents, killing the partners and widowing the other one so they can't reproduce, bombing maternity clinics and hospitals, killing gynecologists and specialists, or indirect measures as in the ability to have safe reproduction, the siege that serves, that prevents pregnant women from and infants from safety, power cuts that stop incubators working, blockade that withdraw anesthetics, antibiotics, and other medications needed for such safety, pregnancy, and safety delivery. And also sexualized violence in sexual violence capacity, but also in prevention of intimacy with the overcrowding and the forced displacement of women and men in Gaza. I'll be talking about the anatomy of reprocide within three main strategies or three main forms, and I will benefit mainly from testimonies from people who are inside Gaza or they have served inside Gaza. The first type or strategy that Israel uses is obstetric violence or obstetric collapse. And I'll be reading a testimony by a husband. His name is Karim Abu Sharia from Gaza. And he says, quotation, on 19th November 2023, my wife Amina Abu Sharia was 9 months pregnant. At about 2 a.m., we were in Saftawi area of North Gaza when her labor started suddenly. A military operation was due to begin that night on Jabalia. No one could leave their homes. We tried calling ambulances, no answer. The situation became critical, so I decided to risk transporting her by car. I told my wife, either we reach Sahaba Hospital or Baptist Hospital, or the aircraft target us on the road and we die trying. Trying is better than watching you die without trying. I carried my wife and went down from our 6th floor apartment. On the staircase, and seemingly from fear, my wife couldn't hold and give birth on the stairs. Unfortunately, only my sister and her mother were present. We had no supplies, we were unprepared. My wife fainted and she bled a lot. We even used the lights cautiously because aircrafts were flying very low and monitoring everything. At the same hour, shells began falling on the street, around building, and on the top floor. We moved down to a lower floor on the 3rd floor, and 2 days later, this same 5th floor was bombed by Israel while we were in the same building. But we survived because we were 2 floors under. The violent genocide that made pregnancies risky, delivery very dangerous, being able to reach to hospitals, to maternity clinics, and find physicians who are able of delivering safely is all part of this obstetric violence. The other strategy that Israel uses for reprocide is genocide and forced displacement. Since October 2023, Israeli attacks have damaged or destroyed nearly 70% of Gaza's structure, including 92% of its housing units. With more than 135,000 homes destroyed, families are crammed into tents without privacy or sanitation. Women give birth on roads or in tents, on rubble, overcrowded classrooms. The forced displacement does not only mean suffering, loss of belonging or personal place, but also it's designed to be violent against even the family as a unit. Another testimony on that from Nancy Abu Musa from Gaza. Quotation, I was 6 months pregnant with twins. I walked almost 10 kilometers, 18 hours from Nasser Street, Gaza City toward the south. I pushed my husband in a wheelchair. It was overcrowded and full of danger, fire belts from Israeli bombing and drones. We couldn't rest. When we reached the south, my water broke. I didn't want to deliver. I was terrified for them. In the crush of people, labor surprised me. My eyes caught a tiny body dropping to the ground. I spread the only blanket we had, and on the bare asphalt at Nueri Hill, I gave birth to 2 babies whom this world offered nothing but quick death. They didn't cry, they didn't face hunger. They knew only one displacement and one final absence. End of quote. Genocide, the destruction of homes, creation of reproduction violence, is not abstract. It's about the loss of homes, loss of walls, loss of ability to go to the hospital again, losing this infrastructure that's very important for intimacy, but also for reproduction and safely reproduction. The third and last strategy I'll talk about today is targeting men and boys and sexual violence, which many of the testimonies that were shared before I will not repeat. Reprocide also attack male fertility and social reproduction. The British surgeon Nick Minard, interviewed on Sky News on the 25 July 2025, said, quotation, one day, 12 days ago, 4 young teenage boys came in, all whom had been shot in testicles, deliberately so. The clustering was far too obvious to be coincidental. End of quote. Such clusters, gunshot wounds to the genitals and pelvis are acts of deliberate reprocide and maiming of women, of children, boys and men. UN investigators and mandate holders record systematic pattern of sexual violence against Palestinian detainees, as mentioned before, not only by raping them and all of that, but also by beating their genitals until they bleed and until they have problems. Commissioner and others also confirmed the participation of both male and female soldiers in sexual assaults, especially on male detainees with female soldiers. Their attacks and the resulting PTSD, post-traumatic disorder from those attacks, are other problems underscores the systematic sexualized nature of Israeli custodial torture and reprocidal acts within this Israeli intentional genocide. That's directly affecting the ability to be intimate and the ability to reproduce. Furthermore, the broader conditions of bombing more than 90% of homes means that people don't have the ability to be intimate. They don't have safe spaces, private spaces for that, which again affects their sexual health, but also their reproductive health. Before people think that the reprocide and the reproductive violence have just started with this genocide, we need to remember that reproductive violence is part of the Israeli long-term plan of colonialism and settler colonialism, annihilation and replacement of the Palestinians. It's a long-term policy and strategy used by Israel. What happened after 2023, October the 7th, is only exaggeration of the use of this tactic and strategy. The jury should recognize that what's unfolding in Gaza is not only genocide, it extends to become reprocide, the destruction of reproductive life in the present and also in the future. This understanding broadens the field of accountability. It links obstetric collapse, starvation, domicide, and sexual violence to reproductive matrix. It exposes temporality of genocide, not just the kill of what is present, but also the future and ability to live. And it calls for reparative justice that rebuilds the material and social conditions for Palestinian reproduction, from hospitals to maternity health, nutrition, safety, and dignity. A grieving father from Gaza said, "We're not hatcheries that can just produce children." He is right. Reprocide is not about numbers alone. It's not just about how many children, women, and men have been killed. It's about whether a mother can labor without terror and fear, whether a father can hold his child without bleeding from shackles, whether a newborn can be warmed and fed and doesn't face this brutality. I urge the jury to name these crimes from what they are: reprocidal campaign to erase Palestinians' existence in both the present and future. Recognition of reprocide is a step toward accountability and toward rebuilding the conditions in which Palestinian life, birth can continue. Thank you.